from it. And then if we hit a roadblock, then I won't do anything. But I have some notes that I want to go over today. I just kind of like used chat last night to kind of throw some things together. And then I was like, hey, I want to make slides out of this. And then can I do it with Canva AI? And it's like, yeah, uh, paste this in. Let's see here real quick. I don't know if do you guys use Canva at all?
I use this is highly interesting. I have the pro version, so I was keen on learning more.
Yeah, I mean, I've been
Yeah.
using Canva for a while, just on just different stuff. I probably not using it as maximum, but I don't really need it. All that, you know.
So let's try this right here. Create a clean professional Y. And then let's do this. Oh, it's already telling me it's going to take a little bit of work. Let's see. I'm just curious. All right. Let's see what that cranks out as. Um, so when Tim asked me to do this, this is a teaching I've done like over the years. We did a lot for um we actually had called this like goal plan Y, and we talked about like setting goals, having a plan to accomplish that goals, and then establishing your why. And then years ago, as we were talking about this originally, I was like, well, why don't we name, because we talked about making it a book. And then instead of making it goal plan Y, let's change it and make it why goal plan, and like make it a question, but it's also the framework. And we put the why in the front because your reason why has to be your fuel. And if you're not clear on what your reason why is, then the goals and the plans don't really make as much of a difference. So even though it was kind of like a catchy way to be able to communicate like a book title, it actually ended up becoming the framework of these three sections, to be able to help people, entrepreneurs, whoever, families, it didn't really matter. It ended up being a framework to help people effectively take control of their life. So that's where this all came from. And it was why goal plan, and then it was why goal plan. So we'll kind of talk about those three parts today. Let's see if AI will throw us together as we kind of talk about it. So I was doing a little bit of research on like why and whys in general. And there was some pretty like interesting neuroscience behind like identifying the why. And there was a story about this guy who was in a Nazi concentration camp. He was a Jew in the concentration camps. And he said that he noticed that individuals who had oh, cool. Let's see how this looks. Oh, bro, how serious, how sick is this? I mean, the fact that it can just pump this out in seconds, so nuts.
Wait, wait, hey Troy, you're inside of Canva right now,
Yeah, it's Canva.
and what did you link? Is this 100% Canva internal, or did you link your GPT and Canva together?
I didn't link my
Okay,
GPT
Peter.
and Canva together, but I probably could have. That's a good point.
I mean,
Because I think that,
I tried to do that months ago, like link give what is it, API access or whatever to
sure,
Canva inside of I could never. This is
you
why
couldn't get it working.
you're the AI king. I mean, I couldn't get.
I when in doubt, I basically just say, tell me what to do. Like, give me the outline to post. I'm confused. Like, dude, I'm
No,
like,
dude,
and unfortunately, that's the downside is AI lets you be stupid, right?
you don't,
So,
bro. I did
yeah,
that and I did that and it taught me after 8 hours of that not working also, um, for me to just stay in my lane of media.
yeah.
So,
So I was like, hey, can I use AI to do this? And it's like, yeah, here's how to do it. Take this. So it's literally what I did was I copied this here. You saw me copy this, and then I took the slide map, slide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now it made this over here. So ultimately, like this would be like the Y goal plan. Actually, I wouldn't even need a title because yeah. So let's see. So the Y. Yeah, it's a the purpose serves as a so I would probably come in and come back and really like internalize this and make sure that this was saying what I wanted it to actually say before I just taught from it. Interesting. Yeah, super stock photo. I think it's typical like most AI stuff is that you'd want to come back in and really make it your own.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
But it did 40-60% of the layout. So cool. So yeah, so understanding your why. I mean, I don't know. Has anybody ever read any books on like understanding your why, or has anybody ever had any encounters with like the importance of setting a why?
Yes.
No. Yeah. What have you seen, Sagari?
Yeah, well, there's the classic TED Talk on that and a terrible book by the same author. But setting your why is good, a great place to start, that you're not are clear on your purpose.
What's the book? That's terrible.
Start with why, Simon Sinek.
Oh, so it's not a good book.
No, personally, I didn't think it's a terrible book. He just made it to make money out of that great video that he had already. He basically is trying to come up with a theory behind his claim, and he's, in my opinion, making claims he can't really substantiate, like his theory of how Apple became so great because they said a why or something like that. But
Oh, and that was all based off of
yeah,
his video with the nucleus, with the center, and then the rings on the
yeah, yeah,
outside of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. The video is great. It's probably one of the most viewed of TED talks ever.
Yeah. Do you know that video, Brian? Simon, do you know who Simon Sinek is? Yeah, he has a video that talks about how like Apple essentially do you want to give an overview of the video, like how they basically sold the why of the consumerism instead of the how?
Well, if I just summarize the gist of the video is that you first get clear on your why. That's the center. That's really what motivates both you and your team. And then around it is the what you do. So you don't start with the what, but you start with the why. And then the most outer ring is then the how, the practical application, how you go about of reaching that goal of yours and making sure that your purpose gets fulfilled.
Yeah. And I remember being in like network marketing back in the day before I got saved, and they were huge on why. They had this saying that said, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough. Right. And it's like there's other people that say is like if the why is big enough, the how figures itself out. Even Myron Golden the other day, I saw a video on him. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that young guy that travels the streets and interviews millionaires and billionaires. I think he's based out of Austin, Texas, but he ran into Myron, and one of the questions he asked Myron was like, if you had to make $1 million in the next 90 days, what would you do? And he's like, well, the first thing I would do is I would remove my 90-day criteria. And he basically goes in and says like, he's like it's not my job to determine the times and the seasons. The times and the seasons are out of my hands. The only thing that I can do is do what I can do, and then everything else just needs to be able to work itself out. Which Myron is actually is he's born again. He lives in Tampa. I'm believing that I'll have the opportunity to meet him and spend some time with him. I don't know if you guys know who Myron Golden is, but he's really solid dude. He's a black guy. I think he actually has like a physical disability. Do you know who Myron Golden is? So he's a super
I
solid
know him.
dude. He's got really great content. He's done stuff with um a lot of people like Russell Brunson, Tony Robbins, Alex Hermosi. He's a really good guy. He has a book called From the Trash Man to the Cash Man, and it talks about like his whole rise up to making stuff. So he'd be a great person actually to network with. We should believe he lives here in Tampa. We should believe to meet with him. So anyway, like this concept of
Amen.
why, and I think that like it's something that as like a doer and as a builder, like I know that I've been guilty of not like firmly establishing these things, even though we can see in Habakkuk, it's like write the vision and make it plain, right? Like we almost feel, and like again, I'm convicted right now myself. It's like, yeah, I know these things, but do I sit down? Do I right now have like a very clear, specific why in 2026? Like a why am I doing what I'm doing right now? It definitely can be developed. I don't have anything written down on paper that I'm specifically looking at on a daily, regular basis that says this is why I'm, even if that why, and then my encouragement to us would be that the why is not our reason why. Our why is what's the Lord's reason for us being able to do this. Like I remember when I was doing door to door with Tim all these years ago, like I worked hard. Like over the years, you hear these stories about these other people who would take time off and go to gas stations when they're supposed to be out knocking the doors, or they're supposed to be out, they're supposed to be in-home selling, and they're, going to movies and stuff. And that never even crossed my mind. Like that was never a thought process for me. And I think the main reason why for me is that in my mind, I had settled that I was a leader on that team and I wanted to be a leader on that team. And the only way for me to be a leader on the team was to be able to lead by example. And there was zero possible chance that I would be able to tell people about working hard and working late and knocking all the hours. I had a 0% chance to be able to lead and influence these other people for the kingdom and for Jesus if I wasn't doing the working hard portion of it. Tim was talking about it. I was talking about it, and I had to live it through. And I knew that to be a leader, I had to like to be a spiritual leader and to be able to say, hey, I want people looking up to the work that I do. I had to put my money where my mouth was. So that was my reason why. It's like I wanted to be an influence for the kingdom of God on the team. And because of that, I ended up being the number 2 sales rep in the region, right behind Tim, who was the number 1 in the region, right? And it was all because I just said, hey, I'm going to be a leader and I'm going to work all the hours because I want to be a spiritual influence for these people. That was my why. And I knew that I couldn't quit at the end of the day because then I would lose my influence. So I would start there. It's like, hey, what is the why? Right. So, and then there's a bunch of neuroscience that I'm interested in studying on because that's the type of guy that I am. I don't know if any Sakari, I don't know. Do you know any neuroplasticity science on a reason why? I feel like you're the type of guy that might know some science on this.
Not on the top of my head anything, but yeah, I might jump in.
Yeah. So there's a author, Caroline Leaf. I don't know if you guys know who she is or if you've ever heard of her, Matt. Have you ever heard of her, Matt? Okay, Matt, no worries. He's probably taking care of his son or something. But yeah, she's great. She talks about that. So
Yeah, love Caroline Leaf, bro.
yeah. So anyway, I guess so. There's some statistics here that so purpose strengthens your neural pathways. So it probably reestablishes and deepens the pathways for action, like when you have a firmer reason why. So I'm going to look into that. AI, make me a note to study the neural pathways and neuroplasticity. I have my bot recording this. So cool. So now to hop in like to super practicals, I don't mean to minimize the why. Because I do think that that's probably some of the most important part for us to be able to have on lockdown. And it's probably my least developed of these skills. So then the next part is the goal, right? So there's two parts to the goal. And it's one is setting goals that are what I would call a SMART goal. You guys have probably heard this before. This isn't like a new idea. They're specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. I'll cover that in a second. And then I like to say there's two different goals, which are habitual goals and benchmark goals. And then there's seven pillars, which we'll cover at the end, which is part of the plan, which is like, hey, where do these follow in? So what's a habit goal? A habit goal is like, hey, I want to be at the gym 3 days a week. A benchmark goal is I want to lose 10 pounds by such and such date. Both of them are goals and they're both SMART goals, which we'll cover, but one of them is built more based off of a habit and the other one is built more based off of a specific desired outcome. So if you guys are unfamiliar with what a SMART goal is, specific, measurable, attainable, relative, and time bound. Specific means that it has to be clear. If anybody has ever worked with employees, if you guys have ever hired virtual assistants, if you have ever delegated tasks, one of the biggest frustrations for me as an owner is people that are not specific in what their desired outcome is. Hey, go do this thing. If you, it's kind of like that old video of like, if you go, like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the videos of like kids, giving you instructions to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, right? Have you guys ever seen those videos? And they like are like, okay, cool. Write down the directions on how to make a peanut butter. Oh, well, first you take bread. So then the lady takes a loaf of bread in the plastic, and then you take peanut butter, and then the peanut butter's in the jar still. They're like, yeah, you take bread, peanut butter, jelly, and then you put the peanut butter and the jelly in between the bread, and boom, you have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So she's acting it out with bread still in the plastic, the peanut butter and the jelly still in their containers, and she's like putting it in between the bread and the bread's kind of like folding around it, and that's kind of what it's like when you're working with employees, but it's also what it's like when we don't have very specific goals. Like, what are we specifically looking to accomplish, right? So Sakari, when you're making your videos, as you know, it's like, hey, my specific goal is how many followers do I want to have? How much engagement do I want to have? How many contents, what's the specific measurable goal? Like, now for you to be like, oh, I want to have 30 million followers. Is that attainable? It's possible, right? Like, would I make that the goal? No, I mean, I think that's a little far-fetched that's out there. And there's a lot of other goals to hit before you have 30 million followers. Like, sure, that could be like the end goal, but like having 1,000 followers or 500 followers is a great warm-up till you're able to get there, right? Like, if the goal is to be 7% body fat and you're 30% body fat, like that's a great goal. And I'm not saying trying to dismiss anybody from hitting that goal, but like there's a lot of other goals that are more attainable, that are a little bit closer, that are benchmarks along the way to be able to. Is that your breath I see there, Matt? Are you outside right now? You look, you're muted. Still muted. It's okay. I'll just imagine it's not a cigar in front of you, and that's just really cold where you're at.
No, dude, I'm boiling some eggs right now, but
okay. I just saw the hat and the hoodie and everything like that, so I just imagined that was your breath that I was seeing outside. So,
crazy.
yeah, so these are all like little goals, right? This is what makes them attainable. They're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable. That doesn't mean that we throw out the largest goals, right? If the goal is to make $1 billion, $1 trillion, $1 gazillion, that's fine, but you have to make 1 billion before you make a gazillion. You have to make 1 million before you make 1 billion. You have to make 100,000 before you make 1 million. You have to make 10,000 before you make 100,000, right? These are all attainable goals that we can set. It doesn't exclude the larger goal. It's just that these other goals are milestones along the larger goal. And it's like the adage, it's like, how do you eat an elephant? Does anybody know how to eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
One bite at a time. Thanks for the sign language on that, Matt. So Yeah, one bite at a time, right? So that's attainable. And then relative. Relative we'll cover here in what I call the seven pillars, which is neat. I saw somebody else, I'll tell you in a minute, but there was another influencer that put out a post that it was almost exactly the same thing that I've been saying. I sent it to Tim at the new year. I'll cover in a second. But they're relative, right? So if you're ultimately that just means like if your goal is to be able to get into shape, right? Like, or if the intention is health, if like that's where you're looking to go is health, well, like you don't like necessarily, setting a goal to build a canoe is not necessarily relative to like what your purpose is or like what the main drive is, right? So we want to make sure that when we're setting our goals that they're relative to like where God is calling us and what he wants us to be able to do. And then T, which is a big one, is time sensitive, right? So being able to put a time element on what we're doing is important because that's the metric of success, right? Like while I appreciate like Myron Golden is like, oh, well, I would throw the 90 days, have to make a million out there. I get that. And I really appreciate where he's coming from because it is like you don't really owe. One thing that you realize as an entrepreneur is that you do not have control of the outcome, right? Like you cannot, Sakari's making these videos. You cannot just say, oh, I'm going to have 50,000 views on this video. You can't snap your finger and say, boom, be 50,000 views. So it's good to be able to have those elements and to be able to have that time goal to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, we also don't control the times and the seasons, but it's good to be able to have that time element because it's a fixed moment in history to be able to relate things to, right? It's a point of time that we're able to go to and we're able to connect it as a point of relativity, if you will. If not, you can have this false sense of like, oh yeah, I'm on my way to losing 20 pounds, Well, how much have you lost? Oh, I've lost 7 pounds. Oh, that's phenomenal. Great. Well, if yeah, it's taken me 7 years. Well, not as phenomenal, like you probably gained and lost a lot of weight over that 7 years, right? So all that the time does is it just gives us a relative point to be able to gauge our results by, to be able to evaluate effectiveness. Dang, that's really good. I didn't think about that. But what time does is it gives you a relative point to be able to gauge the effectiveness of your actions. I'm going to say that again because I really like that. The time element gives you a relative point to be able to gauge the effectiveness of your actions, right? So it's just a balancing system to be able to say, hey, how dialed in are you, right? So now it's like you have your why, and maybe that's a better way to relate the R to like relativity, right? A SMART goal, specific, measurable, attainable, relative. Well, relative, the goal has to be relative to your why. That's probably how I should have phrased it, and that's how I will phrase it to this point. Like your goal has to be directly relative to your why. When I help churches or when I help organizations, and we talk about initiatives, right? Like I talked with Pastor Tommy about some initiatives that he has for like the Norwegian revival, right? Or whatever the case is. Like when you're looking at an organization and the ministerial association that they're building or whatever it is, right? Like we need to make sure that if we're creating initiatives, that if we're creating projects, it's really easy, especially in ministry. I see this all the time. And even in businesses, it's like they start this shiny object syndrome. Like I've been guilty of this. It's like, ooh, you see this opportunity, right? like even Sakari, like with these videos, like I believe what you're doing is led of the Lord. But the key is okay, Lord, like how does this attach to what my reason why is, right? Like the goal isn't just to be like a TikTok influencer, right? The reason why is like, hey, there's people that need the gospel, there's people that need to be prayed for, there's people that need to be supported. This is the call of God that's on my life to be able to reach out to other people, to be able to minister to other people. Like that's the why. There's a call on my life to reap the harvest, to plunder hell, to populate heaven, to grasp people out of lost eternity. That's the why that's driving me how to be able to do this. The why isn't like, oh, I need $1 billion and I want to be really cool on Facebook or on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever the case is, right? So the initiative has to be relative to the why. And if there's now, this is where we need to genuinely be led by the Spirit, because this is where and I feel that this is not at all what I planned on, but this is something I've learned from the Lord, from actually Pastor Alex, Pastor Alex Burgos, he says one of the biggest killers is man's ambition, the ambition of man. People tend to be so ambitious, and he talks a story about Miguel, like Miguel, who has a good solar company right now, and is real involved in just building his solar company, and he has a good relationship with Alex Burgos, and is doing a great job and does very, very well, like tens of millions of dollars of volume that they do. They have a great company. He's the guy that just blessed Pastor Rodney with a Bentley, and they sow a lot into the kingdom. But he used to be a man of opportunity. That's what Pastor Alex calls them, men of opportunity, or the man of ambition. And it's like Miguel, his story, he'll tell you this. He used to be like the wheeler and the dealer. He would, like, when he was in the alarm space, he left Vivint and he went to ADT and he went to Brinks and he went to Guardian and he went to all these people. And it was all about who was going to pay the most commission. It was all about who's going to pay me the most. It was all about the opportunity. And it wasn't about, Lord, what are you telling me to do? Lord, what are you saying for me to do? And if men of God are continually drawn by opportunity and ambition, and not by the will and the plan of God, we're going to end up not accomplishing what God's called us to accomplish. And this is what you hear Pastor Rodney and other pastors say. It's like, what started in the arm of the flesh is going to take the arm of the flesh to be able to sustain it. And I know last year for us, there was a lot of opportunity that we had to choose opportunity, to choose the arm of the flesh, right? There was significant moments, more than one last year, that it's almost like the Lord allowed us to be able to say, okay, are you going to take this payday, or are you going to honor the Lord? And I mean, things that really came down to the wire, months and months of talking and negotiation and prayer. And then in an instant, things like they didn't like fully line up. And then in an instant, the whole thing got turned over. And it's like, okay, are you going to now continue on with the plan, or are you going to realize that this is why things didn't work out? And are you going to make the honorable decision? Are you going to move with honor? And it's like, dude, at the end of November, everything started to change for us. It's like the Lord had us go through like a major test for like a couple year period of time. And we really had to choose to ourselves, like, are we about opportunity? Are we about ambition, or are we about the will of the Lord? And we have to be really careful with clients, with businesses, with opportunities, with partnerships, because like with what you do, Matt, like you know, like one right customer can open up all the right doors. One wrong customer can freaking be a landmine in the camp, right? You know, like customers are finicky. They're wonderful and terrible all at the same time, right? Like you could have one person that you serve your tail off to be able to help this person, but they're an idiot. They have a bad experience. They do something stupid, and then all of a sudden, like they can close down a whole network for you, or they can cause a whole problem for you. And it's like, man, I knew, and Matt, it's, if you have something to chime in here, but it's like that one thing, and it's like, you know, I knew I should have said no to that client. You know, I knew, like, there's so many times in trucking where it's like we could have hired truckers, and I remember early on in the beginning, like, nope, I shouldn't hire that guy. I shouldn't do that. And it's like you have to be sensitive to it. Go ahead, Matt. You got something you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, it's why it's vital to be led by the Holy Ghost in all of our steps, period. Like on a daily basis in everything that we do, and stay and keep attuned to that check in our spirit when it says stop, go, turn here, go there, type of thing, you know, down. And it's just vital. It'll help us avoid catastrophe or speed bumps by getting entangled with the wrong people or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're hitting
Yeah,
it
I
on.
remember like in our earliest years in trucking, like I think this is one of the, you know, like one of the things that I did in the earliest days that really served us well. And I think in the latter days that didn't serve us well when I didn't do it. And that was, I genuinely prayerfully considered all of the people that we took on. Because like when I was starting the trucking company, like, you know, trucking is a highly regulated industry. Like there's safety scores, there's drugs, there's all this stuff that can really, and as a trucking company, as the one that was physically responsible to the government, like I was the entity responsible to the government, right? Like we took we took on owner operators. They were 1099 contractors, but if there was an accident, it was my company's insurance that had to pay the bill. It was my company's federal registration that had the accident on it. Yeah, it was the driver, but it was also our safety score, right? It carried through our insurance. Like insurance, they have something called a loss run, which evaluates how many losses that you had over the running period of time over that insurance. So someone else can do an idiot thing and really screw up my company, my opportunity, all these things. And in the
Yeah.
beginning, like we were really aware of like who it was that we were working with and what we did.
Mhm.
And in the latter years, you got millions of bucks flowing in every single year. We were doing $300,000-$400,000 a week. You start to be less sensitive because you have a little bit more room to
A
get punched in the
little-
face a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and you never can be in fear, but I knew that there was this one client that was taking advantage of us and not, and like, and ultimately it ended up costing me 50, like 50, $60,000 of unpaid trailer bills and ended up getting into not an accident, but like I had to tow this trailer. He had this very specific trailer, as a heavy duty trailer. That trailer rental was costing us $12,000 a month, which if he's making $20,000 a week, that's not a big deal. But if his truck breaks down and it's not moving for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you guys can start to see how this cost now begins to add up without income to be able to offset this, right? And there's like
Yeah.
little things that it's like, when you get driven by money or you get driven by opportunity or you get driven by upside potential and you're not ultimately yielded to the Lord, that it can really easily pull you off track, right? So,
And
that wasn't part of my notes, but go ahead.
It also, the flip side is the inverse of that is also like important too, right? It's because it's like if we stay in tune, like you're saying, right, with the Holy Spirit, making these. I mean, yeah, do we get it? Is anybody 100% perfect, gonna nail this every single time? Of course not. But we train ourselves, and over time, we make it a habit of fine tuning our listening ability and action ability to what we're feeling inside of us, and it down to the people that we hire as well, right? And then the flip side is, yeah, we've lost. I've done it too, man. I've lost a lot of money by making the wrong decision. But had we been more mature, which we both are now from learning, right?
Sure, yeah.
The blessing on the other side of making the correct decision. I mean, we can't. It's immeasurable at this point, you know.
Yeah. And I think like this, the other guardrail to that is like you can't always play it too safe because then fear can come in, right? And it's always like, ooh, it's like the adage, it's like scared money don't make money, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that is also true, right? Like, there's learning in the taking of the risk, and there's learning in being out there and being in the place, So it's it is definitely being spirit led and knowing, when to hold them, when to fold them, when to take the
Yeah,
risk, when to hold it back. So
totally.
um cool. Well, just to kind of wrap up here, the last part is the plan section. So we talked about the why, we talked about the goal, we took a little rabbit trail about not being a man of ambition and a man of opportunity, and making sure that the goals that we have, the I guess the point that I was making with that is that we don't want to justify the action and try to like massage that into the why. As business people, there's a lot of times that we can do that. We can concoct an idea of, well, Lord, this will help your kingdom because if I start this cannabis plant, like it'll really like provide a lot of jobs, and we're gonna sell a ton of weed, and it'll be great for the kingdom, like in our brain. I know that's like an extreme example, obviously, but it goes to point where it's not for certain areas, but it's like the reality is that our brain can often justify the why if we really want it to, and we can't be men of opportunity and men of ambition. We really need to be men of calling and men of God's why and God's purpose. So okay, so the final part is the plan section, and uh to overview this, there's 7 areas that I could take anybody's goals that's on here. I have an open challenge right now with no reward, and I'm not publicizing it, but I'm open to the challenge, which is I could take anybody's goals and fit them into one of these 7 categories. And the reason why my brain works this way is like I'm built this way where I like to organize things with hierarchy because it helps me understand like where things fit. Like if I can constantly put things into buckets and kind of like say, hey, now I'm not managing a million buckets that are all separate. I'm saying, okay, I'm managing 7 buckets. Within inside those 7 buckets, there might be 7 other buckets, but at least there's a cohesiveness to how this thing is built. And this is kind of how I feel about all things in life, is that all things, every goal, every desire, anything that God calls you to, it's going to fit into one of these 7 buckets, or it could dip into a couple of them: spiritual, physical, financial, intellectual, emotional, relational, or recreational. So if it's a career elements are going to be financial, depending on what it is, maybe physical, maybe intellectual, maybe relational, right? But at the end of the day, if it's influence, if it's followers, if it's employees, if it's impact, whatever it is, well, that's relational, or that's a mix of all these things. So when you look at your life and you say, hey, what's important to me in 2026? What's important to me in my whole life, but what's important to me in 2026? Now, the key here is focusing on 7 pillars in one year is going to be very challenging to be able to do. If you're trying to move the needle in all 7 areas as a main focus, that's going to be a lot to balance. I typically would say, hey, pick the average person can pick 1 or 2. If you really have a lot of time or flexibility, your kids are older, because your family, your relationship with the Lord is always going to be very big, and then you're never, you can never bail on your family. A family is always going to be a big part of it. If you don't have a marriage, if you don't have kids, if you don't have some of that, I could say, hey, you could pick probably 3 and really move the needle on. But spiritual, physical, financial, intellectual, emotional, relational, and recreational. And looking at your life in those 7 areas, and I'll get this transcription out to everybody, but in those 7 areas, um, what are some things this year that you feel like the Lord wants? Now, some of them might be baseline, like a spiritual goal might just be like, hey, look, I want to pray 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week. That could be that could just be like a baseline goal for you. That's just like a, hey, this is a habit. I'm not trying to move the needle in this part of my life right now. This is what I want to do. Or you might be like, hey, look, like physical is important to me. Like Sakari is alive right now. Praise the Lord. Last year, was in the hospital and all craziness. Maybe he's not out there saying, hey, I want to go, run an obstacle course race. That might not be him. He might just be like, yeah, maybe in 2027, I want to do that. But right now, let me just go to the gym and go running 3 days a week, or let me, like, my goals, like, so there's certain baselines that you can keep in the areas that you don't necessarily need to like move the needle on, but there might be certain ones that says, hey, I have a specific intellectual goal this year. Like, I want to learn how to speak Spanish. I want to learn how to understand a cash flow statement, how to build a profit and loss sheet, how to understand. I want to learn how to evaluate companies, whatever the case is. Emotional, a lot of people get hung up on this, but it could even be little things of like, hey, I want to learn how to like emotionally handle, some people have had loss in their life. Some people, I know that when we had to shut down our business, like that was like that there was actually a fearful time for me in that. Like I remember during that whole time, we were spending $60,000 more a month than we were making. That's a lot of money that we were spending on top of what we were making. It was hard for me to fall asleep. I'd wake up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning with like a cold sweat, wondering, fearing, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? Well, it was an emotional goal for me to just like be at peace when I was going to bed, to like get a full night's sleep, to get 6 hours, to wake up in the morning and not feel like this overwhelming pressure of like, I actually understood, like you hear these stories of billionaires that lose money in the stock market and then jump out of buildings and like kill themselves. And like people don't understand that. And I never used to understand that. I began to understand that a little bit. I began to be compassionate to these people of feeling like, man, like everything that I've done, like I've got all these responsibilities. I now have 40 people that I employ, 50 people that I employ. I have to start firing people. I have to start doing this. I just like my whole world is crashing. I get that. So those could be emotional goals. So I say all this, it's like, what's your why? Because your why has to be your driving, like your purpose and your why has to be your driving factor. And that comes from the Lord. And then once you understand what your why is, then you look at these 7 areas: spiritual, physical, financial, intellectual, relational, recreational. These are kind of like I actually am going to move this back into the goal section as kind of like a header. It's like, hey, these are the areas, and then you make smart goals to be able to be in these areas, and then you execute them, you put them to a plan, you put them to a schedule. And it's like this is the last thing that I'll say, and then open it up if anybody has any questions. But um a business has a budget, or they at least have like an expectation of the way they make and spend money. A home should have a budget. Dave Ramsey's really big on that. There should be a way of like how we make and spend money. Well, money is a resource. We would all agree that money is a resource. Employees can be resources, right? Like, you're going to know if you have employees, if you run a volunteer organization, even if you're in a church, you're going to know, hey, I'm going to assign this person to this task, right? There's accountability. This person is going to accomplish this task. I have this employee is giving me 40 hours. This employee is giving me 40 hours. Okay, I have now at my access, I have 5 employees, 40 hours a week. That's 200 hours that I now have 200 hours in my resources that I can deploy those 200 hours at things. Well, we now need to be accountable to time. Well, what a budget is to money, a calendar is to tasks and time. And I've found oftentimes that a lot of people, they don't use calendars effectively to budget their time, right? If you know something takes a certain period of time, well, if you know something takes a certain amount of money, and you know that you have a certain amount of money coming in, right? Like, if your expenditures for your house are, let's just say $8,000 a month, right? With mortgage and food, or let's just say $10,000 a month. If your living expenses are $10,000 a month to be able to live, you know that you make $11,000 for that month, you know how much money you have, you know how much money you're spending, and you know what the margin is for that given period of time. Like, but what's very interesting is most people don't know how much work that they or their team need to do. They don't know how much time is actually available. Like, everybody knows that most people have a 40-hour work week. Okay, well, how much is that in a month? Well, okay, well, if I do 40 times 4.3, I guess that's, 160, 170 hours. Okay, cool. But how much of that is meetings? How much of that is, travel? How much of that is this other stuff? So really, when it comes down to it, how much time do you have available? Does your employee have available? And now, if we're looking at what our goals are, if we're looking at what our plan is, and we're starting to say, okay, well, my goal is to go to the gym 3 days a week for an hour each, but really it takes me 30 minutes to get prepped, to do my pre-workout, to put my gym clothes on. And then it takes me an hour to work out, but it takes me another 30 minutes to come home, get changed, take a shower. Well, now that's actually 2 hours that I need to schedule to be able to do this thing. Can I look on my calendar, and can I specifically find where that 2 hours is 3 days a week? And I can promise you this, if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to get done. If it's on your calendar, the likelihood of it getting done goes dramatically up because there's accountability. Your time is already spent. I like to personally sit down on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights. And Sunday, I like to plan my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And on Wednesdays, I like to plan my Thursdays, my Fridays. And then if I have stuff on Saturday, I like to do it on Saturday. And that's my schedule. Sunday, I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesdays, I do my Thursdays and Fridays. And I carry over any of my Monday, Tuesday tasks, Wednesday tasks that didn't get finished. I prioritize them for Thursday and Friday. So this is just from planning, like some very practical stuff that I feel like a lot of people, they mess out on. And And it's very effective, right? Like if you have a budget and you know that that's how your money is going to be allocated, it works, right? It's like Dave Ramsey talks about the envelope system, right? Your spend, your save, your give, your invest. And you can only spend what you have available in the spend. You can only give what's in your give, so on and so forth. Well, if time is a more valuable than resource than money because we can't make time, we should steward the time that God's given us with as great of a measure as we steward, or if not a greater measure than the money that God's entrusted us to be able to steward. So I know it's a lot for to be able to cover here. Any thoughts, any feedback? Brian, you're welcome to chime in.
Bro, repeat that calendar analogy you did. Tom, you
Repeat
said,
it.
yeah, repeat that
What
one.
what did I say? I don't know. I didn't have notes. I just said it. So what was it?
That was prolific. That was epic. It's something I don't know verbatim, but it was like you said that if you don't have your calendar, I guess we're gonna have to go back in the archives and look at the replay. And then you said something else about time, basically being. I don't know if you said it exactly like this, but time being a currency, basically, right?
Yeah, it's a commodity, right? Like time's a greater commodity than money because time you can't make more of. You only have what you have, right?
And how much more should we steward our time because we can't make more.
You can't make more of it. Like, and it gets profound when you really start to think like today's the only January 28th, 2026 that we're ever going to have. Like, this is it. You're going to have many more dollars, many more hundreds, thousands, millions of dollars, but you're never going to have another January 28th, 2026. You have one opportunity for the stars to be aligned to be like this is right now. And that doesn't mean we're always on vacation, and it doesn't mean that we always work. It just means that we steward it. Like, if our life is not our own and this life is God's life and we've consecrated our life to God, then it's really like, Lord, what is your perfect will for my life today for 2028, for 2026, for January 28th, And it's like, yeah, if we like are, like you have a limited amount of time during the week and your tasks, every task takes a certain amount of time. You might not know how, and I think that's the difference between money and between work is that it's really easy to go to Target or Amazon and say, okay, cool, my new light cost me $119. I know specifically that I have this amount of money to be able to spend. Okay, now if I spend 119, that's it. Well, it doesn't really work like that, right? Like with time, it's like, okay, cool. If I'm going to say, hey, I have 60 hours this week that I'm going to work, really by the time I look at my meetings and everything else like that, I probably really only have about 42 or 43 hours of actually task driven deep work that's in that, right? Okay, now I have this list of tasks. Like this is my task list, aka the things I need to buy with my time, right? Like I need to buy these. I'm trading my time to get this work done here. This is the best estimation because I can't actually go to Amazon store to buy this task being done. I have to work this being done. So this is my best guess at how much time this is going to take to be able to do. Right. So if that's how much time this is going to take to be able to do, I can subtract that out of the amount of hours that I have for this week. And it's like using a block schedule to be able to schedule things on there. And this is why the why is so important, because if the why is not the driver, then like Pastor Rodney says, the tail is going to wag the dog, right? Like the needs of the business, the needs of the organization, the needs of the ministry, they're always going to be demanding. People are always going to try to pull you to the left, to the right. Everything's going to try to pull you to the side, but the purpose needs to be your anchor, right? The why needs to be the driving force. That needs to be the pull, and everything else that we do needs to align with the why. It needs to align with the initiative. Like these tasks that are here, when I'm looking at my task list for the week, like I have a task manager that I use, and I'll just kind of show you guys, and we can have another call on this another day, but I've used Airtable. I've used Notion. I think I prefer Notion. I'm on Airtable right now because one of my partners wants to be able to use it. but we have a backlog of tasks, right? Like these are all tasks. These are for the company or for the clients, right? I have these as urgent, high, and then I have a status and I know, okay, they're not started. If it's started but incomplete, it's incomplete. If it's scheduled, that's the money status for me because I know that if it's on my calendar, it has a likelihood of getting done, right? If it's not on the calendar, then it's just marked incomplete. If I'm blocked, so on and so forth. And I have these different tasks, and then I have a time rating. Okay, how much time is this going to be able to take me to be able to do, right? And then I can just mark it off like, okay, this one's complete. I know this one's done, right? Boom. And then it's like, okay, cool, blah, blah, blah. I have these other items. This is assigned, right? This one's in review. I have this one's now done. I did this yesterday. So I can go in and say, okay, this took me an hour, this took me an hour and a half, or whatever the case is. And then I can go back and I can look at, on this, I can look at all of my completed tasks. I can add up all of the hours. I can now look and see how much that client actually took me to be able to do. This is not an exact science. I mean, this is really like a workflow. And I think that there's, it's not perfect for me. Like I could sit here and tell you like, even my calendar right now has got some room in it. I've got some friends in from out of town. So whatever I was planning on being able to get done later today is going to be changed around a little bit, but that's okay because I can drag items to another part of my calendar, right? Like I actually have another meeting right now that I have to run to that starts at 10. Let me just make sure that we're on target for that. And I can always go, I mean, if people, I don't know if you guys like practical stuff like this, but like this stuff is great. Like this is how I run my calendar. Like this is how I do stuff. I always have time blocks. And then I know that my open areas are areas where I can fit in my other tasks, right? That I can say, okay, cool. This is on the calendar. This is on the calendar. This is on the calendar. And that's how I steward the work that God has for me is I use, a zero-based calendar like this. I start putting my tasks on there and this is how I block it out. So I don't know, any questions on that? Is that interesting to you guys or?
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly, man. Which program is that?
This is a calendar app. I use Fantastical. You could probably do this with Google Calendar. I run a couple different calendars, which is kind of a pain because of it. Like if I only had one calendar, it'd be easier, but I have endless winning. I have one of my clients, Taskaroo, and then I have Brave Life for ministry stuff. And then I have Blue, which is the personal stuff, right? So
yeah, I like what you just said though. I'm gonna You know what? I'm gonna take you. I don't know if you challenge this, but I'm gonna take you up on a challenge. I'm just gonna make one up that you that you didn't.
All right.
Say. I'm gonna copy you on your Sunday plan Monday through Wednesday. Wednesday plan the rest.
Yeah, it's good, bro. It helps.
I'm gonna copy you on that, and just mix up the way that I'm doing stuff right now. I'm gonna see how that flows for the next couple of weeks.
My Sunday nights are some of my favorite because it helps me plan my week and helps me get into the week and feeling comfortable. I don't like going into Monday morning trying to figure out what I'm doing because I'm already dealing with the pressures of Monday at that point. Sunday night, I like to prioritize because that way I get to choose, right? It's relaxing. I've had a good day at church and I like to say, hey, this is my end of my day. Usually it's like the kids either go to bed or they're watching a show and I spend an hour and a half and I just plan my week out and I look at my task list. The thing that, in my opinion, that this helps necessitate is a proper task management tool. So people use ClickUp, people use to-do lists, I love Notion. I think Notion is what I really like the most. I like all these things. And then Notion is or Airtable is where I keep the tasks with the time. I have the priority, urgent, high, medium, low, or on hold. And then I have the status, which is like unrefined, meaning it's just an idea, under refined, which means I have some things that are there, but it still needs to be thought out, right? Usually that stuff is like a lower priority type of stuff. It's more like, oh, I have this idea. I need to get this done, but I'm not doing it right now, but I don't want to lose this idea. So I'll make it a low priority or a low medium priority. And the status is unrefined or under refined. Boom. Okay, great. And then once it's refined, I don't have a status for refined. I just mean it's just not started, right? It's ready to be, it's just not started. And then if it's started, then I have it as incomplete. And then scheduled is like the is to me is like the power status, because scheduled says I have a specific time block or multiple time blocks on my calendar to be able to get this task done. Boom. All right. Hey, KJ, I didn't know you're there. Love you, bro. Good to see you. So yeah, so I do that, and then
Yeah.
and the scheduled is powerful. And then obviously if it's delegated or assigned, like I like to keep it in front of my eyes because it's there. Like if I'm blocked on it, I like to mark that I'm blocked on it because then I see that I'm blocked on it. If
I mean, I've got a good system right now, but I'm looking for a way to refine it and dial it in, you know? And there's just like I think it'll help me hit with more accuracy in the volume of stuff that we're trying to accomplish on this side.
yeah,
Um, you know what I mean? Like I know like when I wake up on Monday, I already know or I basically schedule it out for the week or for the project, you know what I mean, on a
yeah,
frequency. But I've got my daughter's schedule and all of that stuff that I'm managing as well with her career and then just internal projects, you know what I mean? So there is an opportunity. I can see it. I'm gonna from what you just said for me to insert what you're doing, the way that you're doing it, and I think it could improve my hit ratio.
yeah. And I mean, I wish I could say it's a perfect process. It's not, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's a moving target constantly,
yeah,
and like this is,
sure.
you know, I've constantly said to people, it's like, you know, I purposefully build in throughout the day 15 or 30-minute gaps around certain things because I
Mhm.
know I'm gonna get a phone call. I know I'm gonna get, you know, I know something's gonna like when we had an hour-long conversation the other week, like I did not have it on my calendar. But that's the nice part is that even though I had a task during that time frame, I can just it still is gonna take that long to do. I just drag it to another part of my calendar that's open, right? So I
Yeah,
move it to Thursday or a Friday, right? I move it to a different time. And obviously, if I had another thing that was more urgent than talking to you at that moment, was talking to you urgent? No, but I could do it and I could have that conversation. And whatever I had during that time block was not that urgent and I could move it over. And that's what determines, can I take this call? Can I do this other thing? Can I take this because you have to be open to the Lord's opportunities, right? We have to be open to like what is the Lord doing? And it's not like this hard and fast like can't talk, can't do anything else. It's just being able to in that moment say, "Hey, what's my priority right now? Like
yeah,
what do I need to do right now? Hey, can't take this call, can't do this thing, can't do this." And yeah, and I build in purposefully like 15-minute, 30-minute blocks like one or two different times throughout the day. So I'm really butt to butt on my meetings because I know that okay, cool, if I start this one 15 minutes earlier, I can move my whole thing 15 minutes earlier. Now it creates more of a gap. So if I have a phone call or something, I can do it. So yeah.
I think it also is important just for the viewers or the listeners for whoever will watch this later too. You know, 10 years from now or whenever, man, as we archive these things, it's like we
Yeah.
also have to, it's also, it has to be said. I mean, because I've experienced this and I'm sure you have too. Like we can make our calendars and things like that. But when there's a divine appointment that the Lord wants to come to happen,
Sure.
whether it be on Zoom or a phone call in person, unexpected cancellations and things will move out the way so that the Lord can have his way in our schedule and in our lives. And I've seen it where high priority people, man, what like I was working on a high priority project and all of a sudden, like I just felt it, just felt to call this person right now and let's get this thing going. And I did. And it just so happened that their scheduled call with that's on the books for ever on a regular basis, they, you know, canceled
Sure.
out of the blue, last minute, you know, is it
Yeah,
random or
that's a
not?
good point. And I would just say, and I got another meeting. I know other people are busy too, but it reminds me of it's like, hey, when things are not going out the way that you want them to or that you plan them to, it might be a good opportunity to downshift and just say, okay, Lord, is there something else that you have planned right now that I'm maybe
Yeah,
not in the flow of? Because
right,
I had this other plan and it's not working the way that I thought. So what are you trying to do right here? Let me get off of my plan and get onto your plan.
right,
So cool.
100%.
All right. Enjoy your eggs, bro. Hey,
All right.
Sakari, good to see you, man. I'll keep your
Sakari.
videos playing. If you ever
Okay.
have a specific video that you want me to play, just WhatsApp me and I'll just throw it on a video over there and I'll just let it roll.
Yeah,
So
we'll get a video playing farm going for you, Zakari.
No, actually, what was great in the first week, like I basically my how for the first week was just do 2 prayer videos a day and see what God is doing, and then all of a sudden, at some point, I saw Pastor Zach from Coshocton, Ohio, post about how much snow they got in, and I thought, let me pray for those guys, and I did a prayer video for Coshocton, and Edie really liked it, and then Zach really liked it, and I shared with the whole church. And I saw like, okay, this is actually the way God is leading me. Let me pray for different areas and trust that God will make meaningful connections in those areas. Then other people have like, hey, I need prayer for this or I need prayer for that. And so trying to originally, or what would be the right word, but like just see where the Spirit is leading.
yeah. I think, bro, I think it's great. Your videos are super simple and it's really like to a very targeted group of people. I think that as you continue to do it, there's going to be people that like enjoy coming and just being a part of your prayer meetings. Like it's not all over the place. It's very simple. It's just Sakari prays. So it's like they know like, oh, I can go to Sakari, you can pray for me, or I know Sakari's praying for things, like, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, keep going, bro.
Cool. All right, love you guys. Chat soon.
All right, peace.
Yep.
Yes.
Bye.